Fear, it's the one emotion that unites every human being, no matter who you are or where you come from. It can paralyze a soldier before battle, hold back a dreamer from chasing their ambitions, or creep into everyday moments in ways we hardly notice. But here's where the Stoics offer us something profound. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Strength, not the absence of fear, but the ability to face it head-on and master it. This idea lies at the heart of Stoicism. Courage isn't about being fearless. It's about taking action despite fear, transforming it into a tool for growth and resilience. In this video, we'll dive into the timeless wisdom of Stoicism to uncover how courage can help us conquer our deepest fears and navigate life's challenges with clarity and purpose. What does it mean to be truly brave? Is it the absence of fear, or does real bravery lie in something deeper? For the Stoics, courage isn't about being fearless. It's about acting with moral strength, even when fear, pain, or uncertainty press down on you. Courage is one of the 4 cardinal virtues in Stoicism, standing alongside wisdom, temperance, and justice. Together, these virtues form the foundation of a good life, but courage plays a uniquely vital role. It allows us to face the inevitable difficulties of life without being ruled by them. The Stoics saw courage not as reckless boldness or blind bravery, but as the ability to act rightly, even in the toughest of circumstances. Seneca, one of the most famous Stoic philosophers, often wrote about this idea. He emphasized that courage is not demonstrated by avoiding challenges or pretending they don't exist. Instead, it's about confronting them head-on with a calm mind and a steady heart. Seneca famously said, "Sometimes even to live is an act of courage." Think about that for a moment. The simple act of waking up each day, facing the uncertainties of life, and striving to do what is right, this in itself is a form of bravery. But how do we apply this in our lives? Let's take the example of facing criticism. Imagine you've poured your heart into a project, a piece of writing, a business idea, or even a personal decision, and someone harshly critiques it. The instinctive reaction might be to retreat, to question yourself, or even abandon your efforts. This is where Stoic courage comes into play. The Stoics remind us that we cannot control others' opinions, but we can control our response. Courage means standing firm, understanding that external criticism doesn't define your worth, and continuing to act in alignment with your values. It's not about fighting back or proving others wrong, but about maintaining inner strength and clarity. Another example is embracing change. Whether it's moving to a new city, ending a toxic relationship, or starting a new career path, change is often accompanied by fear. The fear of the unknown, the fear of failure, or the fear of leaving behind what's familiar. Stoic courage teaches us to face these fears with purpose. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not be afraid of change. It is leading you to a new beginning." True courage here means not avoiding change, but stepping into it willingly, understanding that it's through uncertainty that we grow. In practical terms, Stoic courage calls us to act with intention, even in discomfort. It asks us to focus not on what could go wrong, but on what the right course of action is, regardless of external challenges. What's incredible about this perspective is that it shifts the focus away from outcomes, things we can't always predict or control, and places it on our character. Are we acting with integrity, wisdom, and justice? If the answer is yes, then we are being courageous. As you think about your own life, ask yourself, in what areas have fear or uncertainty held me back? And what would it look like to face those moments with courage, not by eliminating fear, but by choosing to act despite it? By grounding ourselves in this Stoic understanding of bravery, we can begin to shift how we approach challenges, seeing them not as obstacles but as opportunities to practice this essential virtue. Let's consider a common fear: public speaking. For many people, the thought of standing in front of an audience can be terrifying. Your heart races, your palms sweat, and your mind starts spinning with thoughts like, what if I make a mistake? Or what if they don't like what I have to say? This fear can feel overwhelming, even debilitating. But from a Stoic perspective, what exactly are we afraid of? Is it the act of speaking itself, or is it something deeper, perhaps the fear of being judged, of failing in front of others, or of not living up to some external expectation? The Stoics would encourage us to pause and examine this fear more closely. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, taught that most of our fears come from focusing on things outside our control. He said, some things are in our power while others are not. To the Stoics, this distinction is crucial. What's within your control are your thoughts, choices, and actions, essentially, how you interpret events and how you respond to them. What is outside your control are external factors like other people's opinions, the outcome of your effort, or random events in life. So, with public speaking, the Stoics might say, can you control the thoughts of your audience? No. Can you guarantee that every word will come out perfectly? Not really. But what can you control? You can prepare your material thoroughly. You can focus on delivering your message with clarity and sincerity. And most importantly, you can choose how to frame the experience in your mind. In this way, fear begins to lose its grip because you're shifting your attention away from external uncertainties and back to what you can do in the moment. This framework applies to so many fears we face in daily life, the fear of failure, for instance. How much of this fear is tied to worrying about outcomes, whether you'll succeed, whether others will approve, whether everything will go according to plan? The Stoic approach reminds us that the results are beyond our control, but the effort we put in, the dedication we bring to our work, and the way we handle setbacks, these are entirely up to us. By focusing on what we can control, fear turns into an opportunity for growth. Here's the beauty of this mindset. It encourages us to stop wasting energy on things we can't influence and to direct our efforts toward what truly matters: our own thoughts and actions. It's not about dismissing fear or pretending it doesn't exist. It's about understanding it as a signal, a reminder to discern between what's within our power and what's not. Fear, in this sense, becomes a teacher guiding us to realign our focus. Take a moment to reflect. Think about the fears in your own life. Are they rooted in worries about things outside your control? Maybe it's anxiety over how others might perceive you, or perhaps it's the fear of an uncertain future. What would happen if you shifted your perspective? If you started placing your energy into what you can influence, your preparation, your attitude, your actions, and let go of the rest, by adopting this Stoic lens, you might find that fear loses much of its power. It no longer controls you. Instead, it becomes a chance to practice self-mastery and resilience. And isn't that a far more empowering way to live? Picture Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, standing at the front lines of the Roman Empire. As emperor, he faced constant threats: military uprisings, political betrayal, and the weight of leading an empire during plagues and wars. Yet, even in the face of these immense pressures, he didn't crumble under fear. Why? Because he practiced what we now call cognitive detachment, a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy. Cognitive detachment, in essence, is the ability to step back from our emotions and examine them objectively. Marcus Aurelius himself wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Let's break that down. The Stoics believe that fear or any negative emotion doesn't arise purely from external events. Instead, it stems from how we perceive and interpret those events. By changing our perception, we can fundamentally shift how we experience fear. For example, imagine Marcus Aurelius receiving news of an enemy army advancing toward Rome. While most people might panic, imagining worst-case scenarios and succumbing to fear, a Stoic approach would look very different. Instead of fixating on the overwhelming nature of the threat, Marcus would separate the facts an army is advancing from his emotional reaction to it. This mental separation allows a clear analysis. What can I control here? What actions are within my power? And how can I prepare rationally without letting fear cloud my judgment? This practice of cognitive detachment gave him the clarity and composure needed to make sound decisions, even in dire circumstances. Now, how does this apply to us in modern life? Let's say you're struggling with a fear of failure. Perhaps it's starting a new business, pursuing a creative project, or switching careers. The fear stems from all those what-if thoughts. What if I mess up? What if people judge me? What if I lose everything? A Stoic would encourage you to pause and detach from these swirling emotions. Instead of letting fear dominate, ask yourself, what is the situation truly? What can I control? And what is beyond my influence? You might realize that you can't control people's opinions or guarantee success, but you can control the effort you put in, your willingness to learn, and how you respond to setbacks. Reframing your fear is another powerful tool within cognitive detachment. The Stoics believed that every challenge, including failure, presents an opportunity for growth. So, rather than viewing failure as catastrophic, it can be reinterpreted as a necessary step in learning and improvement. For example, instead of thinking, what if I fail and embarrass myself, you could ask, what if I fail and learn something valuable that helps me succeed next time? This shift in perspective doesn't erase the fear, but it transforms it into something constructive, an ally rather than an enemy. Think of it this way: fear often feels like a giant looming shadow. But when you shine a light of reason on it by stepping back and reevaluating the situation, you realize it's not as big or as threatening as it seemed. By practicing cognitive detachment, you empower yourself to respond to challenges with calm and confidence, just as the Stoics taught. So the next time fear comes knocking, take a moment to pause. Separate the facts from your feelings. Ask yourself, what am I really afraid of, and how much of that fear is within my control? You might find that the very act of stepping back gives you the clarity to act with courage and composure, proving that fear doesn't have to hold you back. It can, in fact, propel you forward. What if you could rehearse fear out of existence? Imagine taking the things you dread most: failure, rejection, loss, and seeing them not as threats to run from but as challenges to prepare for. This is the essence of a Stoic practice called Premeditatio Malorum or negative visualization. It may sound counterintuitive at first. Why would anyone deliberately think about worst-case scenarios? But for the Stoics, this wasn't about pessimism or dwelling on negativity. It was a way to build resilience, diminish fear, and ultimately cultivate courage. Seneca, one of the great Stoic thinkers, often encouraged this practice. He wrote, "What is quite unlooked for is more crushing in its effect, and unexpectedness adds to the weight of a disaster." This is a reason for ensuring that nothing ever takes us by surprise. In other words, by imagining the difficulties we might face, we strip them of their power to shock or overwhelm us. When we mentally rehearse life's challenges in advance, we become less reactive and more prepared when they actually arrive. Let's break this down with a practical example. Say you're about to have a tough conversation. Maybe you need to give critical feedback to a colleague or tell a loved one something they may not want to hear. It's a situation where fear naturally kicks in. What if they react badly? What if I don't say the right thing? Instead of letting these fears fester, Premeditatio Malorum invites you to sit with them. Picture the conversation in your mind. What's the worst thing that could realistically happen? Perhaps they might get upset, or the conversation might not go as smoothly as you hope. Now, instead of trying to avoid or suppress that scenario, explore it. How would you respond if things went sideways? What steps could you take to handle it calmly and constructively? The act of imagining equips you with mental tools to navigate the situation with greater confidence. This practice works because it shifts fear from the unknown into the known. Fear thrives on uncertainty, but when you confront potential outcomes head-on, even the unpleasant ones, they lose much of their power to intimidate you. Think of it like rehearsing for a big performance. The first few times you run through it, you may feel nervous, unsure of the details, but with each rehearsal, you feel more prepared, more in control. By the time the actual performance, or in this case, the challenge arrives, you've already envisioned the possibilities and are better equipped to handle them. Take another example, a looming project deadline. Instead of letting the anxiety build unchecked, you might visualize the worst-case scenario, falling behind, feeling overwhelmed, or encountering unforeseen obstacles. Then ask yourself, what could I do to mitigate these risks? Maybe it's breaking the project into smaller, more manageable parts, asking for help if needed, or accepting that perfection isn't always possible. By rehearsing these outcomes, you soften their emotional sting and empower yourself to take proactive steps. But there's another layer to Premeditatio Malorum that's deeply freeing. It reminds us to appreciate life as it is. When you imagine losing something important, a job, a relationship, even your health, you paradoxically become more grateful for it in the present moment. Seneca called this a way to inoculate ourselves against loss, while also deepening our appreciation for what we currently have. It's not about living fearfully, but living mindfully, with the understanding that nothing in life is guaranteed. So, how can you start practicing Premeditatio Malorum in your own life? Set aside a few minutes each day to reflect on an upcoming challenge or concern. Visualize that worst-case scenario clearly, but do so with a calm mind. Instead of catastrophizing, focus on how you'd cope, what actions you'd take, and how you'd adapt. This doesn't just prepare you for what might go wrong, it empowers you to act with courage and intention, no matter the outcome. By making Premeditatio Malorum a habit, you'll find that fear begins to loosen its grip on you. Challenges feel less daunting because you've already faced them in your mind, and instead of being paralyzed by uncertainty, you'll move forward with a sense of control and clarity. This practice isn't about expecting the worst, it's about preparing for it so you can handle anything life throws your way. What if the secret to facing life's biggest fears was hidden in the small, everyday choices we make? Picture this, it's a chilly morning, and instead of turning up the hot water in the shower, you step into the freezing stream. Instantly, every fiber of your body rebels against the cold. You want to jump out, turn back, or stop altogether. But instead, you breathe, you stay, you push through the discomfort, reminding yourself that this moment is temporary and you're in control of how you respond. This act, though seemingly minor, is an example of voluntary discomfort, and for the Stoics, exercises like this weren't just physical challenges, they were tools for training the mind and spirit. Epictetus, the former slave-turned-philosopher, often spoke about the value of practicing discipline and embracing small hardships. He advised, difficulties show a person's character. So when a trouble confronts you, remember that the universe has given you a chance to practice courage and resilience. To the Stoics, voluntary discomfort wasn't about self-punishment or unnecessary suffering. It was about building mental and emotional resilience through manageable, intentional challenges. These small acts of discomfort condition us to face larger fears and adversities with greater tenacity. Take fasting, for instance. Abstaining from food for a day may seem like a minor inconvenience, but its effects go far deeper. When you fast, you consciously deny yourself something you're used to having, something comfortable. It forces you to confront your cravings, your habits, and at times your own irritability. But in doing so, you realize something profound. You are stronger than those cravings. You don't need the comforts you thought were essential. This practice fosters self-control and prepares you to remain composed in situations where you're forced to go without, whether it's food, luxuries, or other conveniences. These small trials, like fasting or cold showers, simulate discomfort so that when real challenges arise, losing a job, facing rejection, or dealing with uncertainty, you've already trained your mind to remain steady. Think of it like preparing for a marathon. You wouldn't expect to run all 26 miles without training, would you? Small discomforts are like short practice runs. They prepare your body and mind for the big race of life. But it doesn't have to stop at physical practices. You can apply voluntary discomfort emotionally or psychologically too. For example, having an honest conversation you've been avoiding, stepping out of your comfort zone to learn a new skill, or even saying no to something you typically agree to can all cultivate resilience. These aren't life-threatening fears, but they tap into the same emotional resistance we feel when facing bigger challenges. By tackling these smaller fears, you train yourself to face larger ones with greater courage and clarity. So why does this work? Voluntary discomfort shifts your relationship with fear and hardship. Instead of running from discomfort, you lean into it on your own terms. This builds trust in your ability to handle adversity, and over time, it creates a sense of inner strength. You stop seeing discomfort as something to avoid and start viewing it as an opportunity to grow. By repeatedly exposing yourself to manageable challenges, you also develop a kind of emotional, callous, thicker skin that helps you weather life's storms without breaking. Now let's bring this back to your daily life. Ask yourself, what small discomforts could you embrace today to build courage for tomorrow? It doesn't have to be extreme. Maybe it's waking up a bit earlier than usual, skipping that extra snack, or taking a different, slightly more challenging route on your run. These might seem insignificant, but collectively they shape your character. They teach you to tolerate discomfort, to persevere, and to trust in your own strength. Through these small, intentional acts of voluntary discomfort, you're not just toughening your body, you're fortifying your mind and spirit. You're teaching yourself that fear and discomfort don't define you. Your response to them does, and in doing so, you're preparing yourself to face life's larger fears with resilience and grace. How often do your fears stem from assumptions rather than facts? Think about it. That presentation you're anxious about, are you really unprepared? Or are you assuming it will go badly because of a lingering self-doubt? That difficult conversation you're avoiding, are you genuinely incapable of handling it? Or are you imagining responses that haven't even happened yet? The Stoics understood this instinct all too well. Fear often grows not from reality, but from the stories we tell ourselves about reality. And they believed the antidote to this was simple: reason. Marcus Aurelius urged us to examine our fears with logic. He wrote, "If you are pained by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your judgment about it. And it is in your power to wipe out this judgment now." What he's saying is that fear is rarely caused by the event itself, it's caused by how we interpret the event. To a Stoic, fear thrives on misjudgment and false assumptions, but reason has the power to dismantle it. Let's dive into how we can use rationality to challenge these fears and respond with clarity. The first step is to pause and analyze the fear. When you feel that familiar knot in your stomach, ask yourself, what exactly am I afraid of? Be specific. Often, when you break your fear into smaller pieces, you realize it's not as overwhelming as it first seemed. For instance, let's say you're worried about an upcoming job interview. Instead of letting vague anxieties take over, pinpoint the source of your fear. Is it that you're afraid of forgetting an answer, of looking unqualified, or of being judged by the interviewer? Identifying the root allows you to assess it more rationally. Next, question whether your fear is based on facts or assumptions. Marcus Aurelius encouraged this kind of rational inquiry, examining each worry to determine if it holds up under scrutiny. Are you afraid of forgetting an answer because you haven't fully prepared, or are you simply imagining a worst-case scenario? Are you concerned about looking unqualified because you lack the necessary skills, or are you projecting insecurities onto a situation that hasn't even played out yet? By distinguishing real challenges from imagined ones, you strip fear of its power to paralyze you. Another powerful tool is to examine the worst-case scenario. Seneca advised, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." What's the absolute worst thing that could happen? In many cases, you'll find that even if things go wrong, it won't be the disaster you've built up in your mind. Let's go back to the job interview example. The worst outcome might be that you don't get the job, but does that mean the end of your career? Or does it mean you'll gain valuable experience to improve for the next opportunity? By facing your fear head-on, you realize it's rarely as catastrophic as your imagination makes it out to be. Finally, reframing the situation can help transform fear into something constructive. The Stoics believed that every challenge, even those that provoke anxiety, is an opportunity to grow. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that obstacles are part of life's natural order, writing, "The impediment to action advances action." What stands in the way becomes the way. If you're fearful about failing, for instance, you can reframe failure as a step toward mastery. If you're nervous about an important decision, you can view it as a chance to practice courage and refine your judgment. By changing the lens through which you see your fear, you shift it from a threat to a teacher. This process, analyze, question, face, and reframe, can be applied to nearly any fear. It doesn't mean you'll never feel fear again. Fear is a natural response, but with practice, you'll learn to meet it with reason rather than panic. Instead of letting fear dictate your actions, you can redirect its energy into thoughtful, deliberate responses. And as you do this, you start to realize something profound. Fear loses its grip when you see it clearly for what it is, often just a shadow cast by your own mind. Imagine Hercules, the greatest hero of Greek mythology, standing before the 12 labors. Each task seems impossible. Slaying the Nemean lion, capturing the golden hind, cleaning the Augean stables in a single day. These weren't just physical challenges. They were trials of his character, meant to push him to his limits and forge him into something greater. Hercules didn't shy away from his labors because they were difficult or terrifying. Instead, he embraced them, knowing that each trial was an opportunity to prove his strength, resilience, and virtue. The Stoics view life's challenges in much the same way. To them, adversity isn't something to avoid or fear. It's a vital part of life, a chance to grow stronger and to practice the virtues that define us: courage, wisdom, temperance, and justice. Seneca, a master of Stoic philosophy, put it eloquently when he said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." In other words, just as Hercules grew through his labors, we grow through the hardships and fears we face. They test who we are and, more importantly, who we can become. But how do we begin to see adversity as a gift instead of a curse? It starts with reframing. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" the Stoics would encourage us to ask, "What can I learn from this? How can I use this to grow?" Let's break this down with a real-life example. Imagine you've just lost your job. It's natural to feel fear of financial uncertainty, fear of failure, fear of what comes next. But a Stoic might see this situation not as an insurmountable disaster, but as a trial, a way to build resilience, reevaluate priorities, and find new opportunities aligned with your values. Seneca would remind us that hardship reveals our true character. Fire tests gold, suffering tests brave men. He wrote, "In moments of adversity, we have the chance to show courage, to endure what we cannot change, and wisdom to take thoughtful action where we can." Losing a job, for example, could teach you patience as you navigate uncertainty, resourcefulness as you explore new paths, and gratitude as you reflect on past experiences and how they've shaped you. What seems like a setback may, with time and reflection, prove to be a stepping stone towards something greater. So how can you apply this Stoic mindset in your own life? Start by identifying a fear or challenge you're currently facing. Write it down. Maybe it's a fear of failure, rejection, or a major life change you didn't expect. Then take a step back and ask, what virtues can I practice in facing this? Let's say you fear starting a new career path. This is your chance to practice courage by taking that first step, wisdom by preparing for the journey ahead, and resilience by staying committed despite setbacks. Suddenly, the fear becomes a proving ground, a way to align your actions with your highest values. Next, shift your focus to what's within your control. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." You can't control whether an outcome will meet your expectations, but you can control how you show up in the face of fear. You can choose to act with integrity, to keep moving forward, and to see the bigger picture. Reaching for higher values, even when it's hard, is what transforms adversity into purpose. Finally, adopt the long view. The Stoics believed that hardships are fleeting, but the virtues we cultivate through them are eternal. Think of the challenges you faced in the past. Didn't many of them shape you into the person you are today? When you remember that every trial is part of a greater story, one where you grow stronger and wiser with each step, fear starts to lose its edge. It no longer feels like a trap but an opportunity, a chance to exercise courage and emerge better for it. So the next time you're standing before your own 12 labors, think like Hercules. See the challenge not as an obstacle but as an invitation to grow. Embrace the fear, face the adversity, and let it forge you into someone stronger, someone wiser, someone closer to the person you aspire to be. As the Stoics teach us, it's not the trials themselves that define us, it's how we rise to meet them. We often spend so much of our lives gripping tightly to outcomes, hoping, wishing, and sometimes even bending ourselves out of shape to ensure everything goes exactly as planned. But here's the thing, how much control do we really have over the result? The truth, as the Stoics would remind us, is very little. The outcomes we so desperately cling to are often shaped by countless factors beyond our influence: other people's decisions, unforeseen events, timing, circumstance. And yet, this illusion of control keeps us trapped in fear, fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of things not turning out the way we imagined. But what if we let go of that illusion? What if, instead of focusing on the end result, we fixated on the one thing that is always within our power, our actions? This is the essence of the Stoic principle of surrendering outcomes while maintaining disciplined effort. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, said it best: "Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens." The Stoics didn't advocate for passivity or indifference. They believed in putting everything you have into what you can control, your preparation, your choices, your character, and then leaving the rest to unfold as it may. Consider a relatable example: a job interview. You spend days preparing your responses, researching the company, carefully choosing your outfit, and building your confidence. By the time you walk into the room, you've done everything within your power to present yourself in the best possible light. But beyond that, the decision lies with someone else. Maybe they're looking for a different skill set. Maybe they already had a candidate in mind. or maybe circumstances shift and the role gets put on hold altogether. There are so many variables you have no control over. If you tie your self-worth entirely to whether or not you get the job, you're setting yourself up for unnecessary anguish. The Stoic approach instead is to focus on what you can control, the effort and care you've put into each step leading up to the interview. Success, then, lies not in the outcome but in knowing that you gave your best. Now take this same mindset and apply it to a creative project like writing a book or launching a new business idea. You can pour your heart into your work, refine your craft, and give it everything you've got. But you can't dictate how others will receive it. Will your book get glowing reviews? Will your business take off immediately? These outcomes are beyond you. Courage, in the Stoic sense, is found in creating anyway, writing the book, launching the idea, not because you can predict the result, but because the process itself is meaningful. You act not for the guaranteed reward, but because the action aligns with your values and aspirations. This idea of letting go of outcomes isn't just about reducing fear, it's also profoundly freeing. When you stop clinging to results, you unlock a level of focus and clarity. You're no longer weighed down by the anxiety of a future you can't control. Instead, all your energy is directed toward doing what's right in the here and now. Think about it. How many times have you hesitated to act because you were too attached to how things might turn out? Maybe you held back from telling someone how you feel, starting a passion project, or taking a leap in your career because you couldn't guarantee success. But what if the courage to act is what matters most, regardless of the outcome? Take a moment to reflect. In what areas of your life are you clinging to outcomes you cannot control? Is it in your relationships, your career, your personal goals? What would it feel like to let go, to focus instead on the process and the effort? Imagine the peace that would come from knowing you did your duty, that you poured your energy into what was within your power and left the rest to unfold naturally. Because in the end, the courage to let go isn't about giving up. It's about trusting in your ability to act with intention, no matter the result. And that, the Stoics would tell us, is where true strength lies. Nature doesn't resist, it adapts. Rivers don't argue with the rocks in their path, they flow around them. Trees don't fight the changing seasons, they shed their leaves in the fall and bloom again in the spring. This sense of harmony, of moving with the natural order rather than against it, is central to Stoic philosophy. For the Stoics, living in accord with nature is not just a matter of finding peace, it's a source of profound courage. It's the kind of courage that comes from accepting life's inevitable changes and challenges, trusting that, just like nature itself, we have the strength to adapt and endure. Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively about this idea in his Meditations. He reminded himself and us that everything in life happens for a reason, part of the larger order of the universe. Nature of things loves nothing so much as to change the things that are and to make new things like them. He observed, to Marcus, resisting change was like trying to stop the tide. It's an exercise in futility. Instead, he urged us to adapt to the present moment, to embrace impermanence, and to trust that whatever happens, we are equipped to handle it. But how does this mindset translate into courage? It starts with letting go of the illusion that we can control everything. Fear often comes from resistance, the belief that we must fight against the inevitable, whether it's the loss of a job, an unexpected breakup, or even aging itself. The Stoics remind us that resisting life's changes only increases suffering. Courage, on the other hand, arises when we align ourselves with nature's flow, accepting life as it is, not as we wish it to be. Take, for example, coping with unexpected life changes like losing a loved one. Grief, of course, is natural. It's part of being human, but often what makes grief unbearable is the resistance. the desire to cling to the way things were, the refusal to accept that life has changed. The Stoics would encourage us to look to nature for guidance. Just as spring returns after a long winter, joy can eventually return after sorrow. By embracing the impermanence of all things, we find the courage to move forward, knowing that life, like nature, is always in motion. Or consider facing a career setback like being passed over for a promotion. While it's easy to feel defeated or angry, nature reminds us that every obstacle is an opportunity to adapt. Marcus Aurelius himself would see this as part of the universe's natural order, an event that challenges you to adjust, rethink, and grow stronger. He famously wrote, "What stands in the way becomes the way." When we adapt to life's challenges, seeing them as opportunities for growth rather than insurmountable problems, we embody nature's ability to flow and transform. But living in accord with nature isn't just about the big, life-altering events, it's a daily practice. It's recognizing that life's small frustrations, like being stuck in traffic or having plans change at the last minute, are part of the rhythm of existence. Instead of reacting with anger or resistance, we can choose to adapt, to stay grounded, and to focus on what remains within our control. This inner flexibility, this ability to move with life rather than against it, is a quiet but powerful form of courage. So, how can you begin to live in accord with nature? Start by observing it. Notice how effortlessly it adapts, how it thrives despite obstacles, and how it transforms with the seasons. Then reflect on your own life. Are there areas where you're resisting change or clinging to the past? What would it look like to release that resistance and trust in the process? What would it feel like to embrace life's impermanence, knowing that just as nature renews itself, you too can grow and rebuild? By aligning ourselves with nature's flow, we find not only peace but the courage to face life's challenges with grace. We become like the river, resilient and adaptable, always finding a path forward, no matter what lies in our way. Imagine standing at the edge of a personal challenge you feel you can't face alone. Perhaps it's a daunting career change, a difficult conversation with a loved one, or even embarking on a new journey in life. In those moments, fear can feel isolating, as though the weight of the world rests solely on your shoulders. But what if courage didn't have to be faced alone? What if strength could be found not just within yourself, but also in the shared humanity of those around you? This is where the Stoics remind us of something deeply profound, that we're not meant to face life's challenges in solitude. Courage can be drawn from the support, wisdom, and example of others. Seneca, the Roman philosopher and statesman, spoke often about the importance of companionship on the path to personal growth. He advised, associate with those who will make a better man of you. Welcome those whom you yourself can improve. The process is mutual, for men learn while they teach. What Seneca understood is that courage isn't cultivated in a vacuum. Surrounding yourself with those who embody strength, wisdom, and resilience can inspire you to bring out those qualities in yourself. And just as we draw courage from others, they can also find courage in us. It's a reciprocal relationship that strengthens us all. Let's consider a relatable situation. Think back to a moment when you overcame something terrifying, but only because someone supported you. Maybe it was a friend encouraging you to speak up for yourself when you were too afraid to do so. Or perhaps it was a mentor who guided you through a period of uncertainty by sharing their own experiences of failure and perseverance. Whatever the situation, the courage you found in those moments wasn't just your own, it was magnified by the presence and support of another person. This is the power of shared humanity. When we lean on others, fear becomes smaller and our ability to act becomes greater. Mentorship is one of the clearest examples of this principle in action. A mentor is someone who's walked a similar path before you, who can share not only their successes but also their struggles and lessons. For the Stoics, mentorship was essential. Marcus Aurelius often praised his teachers and advisors, crediting their wisdom with shaping his own ability to lead with strength and virtue. Drawing from the experiences of those who have already faced their fears can shed light on your own path, showing you that what feels insurmountable today is something others have faced and overcome before. But beyond mentorship lies the importance of community, being part of a group of people who share similar values and who lift each other up during difficult times. The Stoics believed deeply in the interconnectedness of humanity. Marcus Aurelius frequently reminded himself, "We are made for cooperation, like feet, like hands, like eyelids, like the rows of the upper and lower teeth." To act against one another is contrary to nature. This sense of shared purpose and mutual support can be a source of incredible strength when fear arises. A supportive community reminds you that you're not alone, that your struggles are not unique, and that together you can find solutions and strength. Even in small moments, community can foster courage. Think about a team working together to accomplish something challenging. An individual might feel insecure or uncertain about their abilities, but the collective energy and encouragement of the group can push them to persevere. Whether it's a family, a group of friends, or even an online community, knowing others are in your corner helps you move forward even in the face of fear. So, how can you harness the power of community and companionship to cultivate courage in your own life? Start by identifying the people who inspire you, mentors, friends, family, or even historical figures whose stories resonate with you. Surround yourself with those who uplift you, challenge you to grow, and encourage you to act boldly in the face of fear. And just as you seek courage from others, remember to offer it in return. Be the friend, mentor, or companion who helps someone else find their own strength. In doing so, you not only build courage in others, but you reinforce it within yourself. The Stoics remind us that we are stronger together. Courage doesn't have to be a solitary pursuit. By leaning on others and offering our support in return, we create a ripple effect of bravery and resilience that extends far beyond ourselves. And in that connection, fear loses its power, replaced instead by shared strength and unshakable humanity. Courage is not about banishing fear, it's about standing firm in the face of it. It's about choosing action over avoidance, purpose over paralysis. Throughout this journey into Stoic philosophy, we've explored practices that help us cultivate this kind of courage, a courage rooted not in bravado, but in wisdom, clarity, and resilience. Let's take a moment to reflect on what we've learned. First, we talked about detachment, letting go of the need to control outcomes and focusing instead on what is truly within our power, our thoughts, our actions, and how we respond to life's challenges. By releasing ourselves from the grip of what we cannot control, we free up energy to act with intention and confidence. Marcus Aurelius taught us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. This simple yet profound principle can transform fear from an overwhelming weight into a manageable reminder of where our focus should lie. We also explored the Stoic practice of rationality, examining our fears through a lens of logic. So often, fear is fed by assumptions, exaggerations, or imagined outcomes that may never come to pass. By pausing to analyze the source of our fear, questioning whether it is based on fact or fiction, and reframing challenges as opportunities, we begin to see fear for what it really is, a shadow that loses its power when exposed to the light of reason. Then there's resilience, the ability to endure hardship and adapt to change. The Stoics teach us that life's challenges, far from being obstacles, are opportunities to grow stronger. Each adversity we face is a stepping stone toward greater fortitude. Whether it's through voluntary discomfort, embracing change, or leaning on the support of others, resilience is built one trial at a time. As Seneca reminded us, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. all of these practices lead us to the heart of Stoic courage, the ability to act rightly despite fear. Courage isn't about being fearless, it's about feeling the fear and choosing to follow your principles anyway. It's in the uncomfortable but necessary conversation, the step forward into uncertainty, or the decision to stay true to your values even when it's hard. It's in understanding that fear is part of being human, but it doesn't have to define us. As we conclude, let's reflect on these wise words from Epictetus. How long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself? Courage isn't something that magically appears when fear disappears. It's something you practice little by little every day. So here's a question to take with you. What is one fear in your life that has been holding you back? And what Stoic principle could you apply to begin facing it today? Detachment, rationality, or resilience? Start small. Take just one step toward meeting that fear, knowing that courage is built through action, not avoidance. If this video gave you something to think about, consider sharing your thoughts in the comments. What did you resonate with most? Are there fears you're ready to tackle using Stoic wisdom? We'd love to hear your journey, and if you found value in these insights, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more Stoic practices and reflections. After all, the pursuit of courage and wisdom is one we walk together. Until next time, remember, the path of courage begins with a single step, and your first step is always within your control.